Alex had been waiting all week for Saturday. No work, no meetings, no plans. Just 6 empty hours to finally start the project he'd been talking about for months. He actually wanted to do it, and that was the weird part. At 10:02 a.m., Alex opened his laptop. Coffee ready, phone on silent, document open. Perfect. Then he noticed something. His desk was dusty. Not very dusty, but dusty enough to become an emergency, so Alex cleaned it. Then he noticed a cup in the kitchen, then the dishes, then laundry. At 12:17, he found himself wiping the inside of his microwave. Alex had never voluntarily cleaned the inside of a microwave in his life. Something was clearly wrong. At 2:43 p.m., he was organizing the mysterious drawer where old cables, dead batteries, receipts, and one key nobody recognizes go to die. The project? Still empty. Alex sat down again, looked at the blinking cursor, and had one uncomfortable thought. Maybe I don't actually want this. That would explain everything, except it didn't, because Alex thought about the project constantly, in the shower, on the bus, and during meetings where he was technically supposed to be thinking about other things. He imagined finishing it, showing people, and maybe even turning it into something bigger. He wanted it. He just didn't seem to want to do it. And those are very different problems. A few days later, things got stranger. Daniel sent Alex a message. "Can you take a quick look at my presentation?" Alex opened it. One slide became 5, 5 became 20. He changed the layout, rewrote headlines, and moved charts. At 1:06 a.m., Daniel finally messaged, "Man, go to sleep." Alex looked at the clock. 3 hours gone, no struggle, no motivation video, no productivity playlist. Apparently, lazy Alex could work for 3 hours straight, just not on Alex's own project. So maybe laziness wasn't the answer. The next morning, Alex had to send an email for sentences. He already knew exactly what to say, and it should have taken 2 minutes. He opened the draft, didn't send it. At lunch, he opened it again, still didn't send it. At 6 p.m., the email was still sitting there. The next day, it somehow felt bigger. By Thursday, for sentences had become a diplomatic negotiation between two hostile nations. Now, this was interesting. The project was big, the email was tiny, and Alex avoided both, but he'd happily spent 3 hours fixing somebody else's slides. So the amount of work clearly wasn't the problem. Something else was happening. Alex started watching himself more carefully. The next time he opened his project, he didn't immediately leave. He just sat there, cursor blinking. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then came the thoughts. Asterisk, where do I start? What if the first idea is bad? Should I plan this first? How long is this going to take? What if I realize I'm not actually good at this? Asterisk. And there it was. The project hadn't done anything to him. He hadn't even started, but his body already wanted out. So Alex did what he usually did. He checked his phone, and almost instantly he felt better. That part mattered. Open project, feel uncomfortable, leave, feel better. Alex had repeated this little sequence hundreds of times without noticing it, and his brain noticed everything, especially relief. Your brain doesn't only remember things that feel good. It also remembers what makes bad feelings stop. If opening a document creates tension and opening Instagram removes it, your brain learns something. Not because it's stupid, but because that's exactly what brains are supposed to do. Problem appears, escape works, remember escape. Congratulations. Alex had accidentally trained himself, and his brain was a very enthusiastic student. This happens to almost everyone sometimes, but with ADHD, it can become especially obvious. ADHD isn't simply, "I can't focus." That wouldn't explain why someone can ignore an email for 4 days, then spend 6 hours researching the perfect mechanical keyboard they weren't planning to buy. The strange part is that attention doesn't always follow importance. A task can matter enormously and still fail to grab the brain right now, especially if it feels unclear, boring, too big, too far away, or emotionally uncomfortable. Alex's brain wasn't asking, "What will improve my life next month?" It was asking, "What can I engage with right now?" The project offered uncertainty. His phone offered novelty every few seconds. This was less like a fair competition and more like putting a salad beside a slot machine. But then Alex noticed something even stranger. Sometimes the things he cared about most were the things he avoided hardest. A month earlier, he found a job opening. Better pay, interesting work, a company he actually liked. Alex read the description twice. This is perfect. Then he saved the application and didn't touch it for 9 days. Every evening, he'd say, "I'll do it tonight." Then tonight would arrive, and suddenly tomorrow looked wonderful. Tomorrow Alex was confident, organized, focused. Tomorrow Alex somehow owned a printer that worked. Why would he avoid an opportunity he genuinely wanted? Because now there were stakes. If Alex didn't apply, the job remained possible. Maybe he could have gotten it. Maybe he would have been great. The dream stayed safe. But the second he applied, the world got a vote. They could reject him. He could interview badly. He could discover he wasn't ready. The unfinished application was full of possibility. The submitted one could fail. Avoidance protected Alex from finding out. It also protected him from succeeding. That was the deal, and Alex had been accepting it without reading the terms. Naturally, he decided the answer was motivation. So he watched 3 productivity videos, made a playlist called Focus, bought another notebook, and then, in a move of breathtaking efficiency, spent an entire evening building a productivity system. Tasks had colors, projects had categories, priorities had priorities, and there was even a weekly dashboard. By midnight, Alex had created a beautiful system for managing work. The actual project still contained 0 words. That's the clever thing about avoidance. It doesn't always look like avoidance. Sometimes it looks extremely productive. Alex wasn't scrolling anymore. He was planning, organizing, preparing, researching, all respectable activities, and all of them allowed him to avoid the one moment he actually feared, starting. So the next morning, Alex tried something different. He didn't write "work on project." That sentence had become enormous. Work on project could mean 10 minutes, 5 hours, or 50 decisions. So his brain heard it and prepared an evacuation. Instead, Alex gave himself one job: write one bad sentence. Not a good sentence, not the perfect opening. One sentence allowed to be completely useless. Alex stared at the page, then typed, "I have no idea how to start this." Technically, success. He wrote another sentence, then deleted it, then wrote a worse one. 5 minutes later, something had changed. Not his personality, not his discipline. The project simply wasn't imaginary anymore. He was inside it. That was the part Alex had missed. The hardest moment was often not the work. It was crossing from not doing into doing, like standing beside a cold swimming pool. Before you jump in, your brain becomes a lawyer. Asterisk, it's cold. Maybe later. Do we even like swimming? There are probably health risks, asterisk. Then you jump, and 30 seconds later, you're swimming. The hardest part wasn't the water, it was the edge. Alex started seeing edges everywhere. Going to the gym wasn't just exercise, it was changing clothes, finding headphones, filling the bottle, leaving the apartment, walking there, starting one task on his calendar, 7 little edges in real life. So he stopped telling himself, "Go to the gym," and told himself, "Put on his shoes." That's it. He could stop afterward. Sometimes he did. One evening, Alex put on the shoes and remained on the sofa like a man waiting for his legs to receive a software update. The tiny step wasn't magic, and that mattered too. Some days it worked, some days it didn't. The point wasn't to trick himself into productivity. The point was to make the entrance less expensive. So Alex started changing entrances. Asterisk finished presentation became open slide 1. Asterisk clean apartment became pick up 5 things. Asterisk apply for job became find resume. Asterisk reply to email became write the first line. His phone moved across the room. The project document stayed open, and gym clothes sat beside the bed. Not because Alex had become a productivity genius, but because he was simply removing places where his brain could negotiate. And something else changed. He stopped waiting to feel ready. For years, Alex assumed motivation came first, feel motivated, then act. But a lot of life works backward. You act, then the feeling catches up. A few weeks later, Alex was back at the same desk. Saturday morning, same coffee, same project, same blinking cursor. And then the old feeling appeared, that tiny pressure in his chest, that urge to check something, anything. Alex reached for his phone, stopped. He didn't suddenly become fearless. He didn't whisper a quote about discipline. He just stayed uncomfortable for 10 seconds, then he wrote one bad sentence, then another. 40 minutes passed. Alex looked up and finally understood what had been confusing him for months. He didn't hate the project. Most days, once he started, he actually liked it. What he hated was the doorway. He'd been judging the entire room by how uncomfortable it felt to walk through the door. And maybe you've done the same thing. There's probably something you genuinely want to do, a project, a message, a workout, an application, a phone call, something that's been following you around in the background while you become strangely productive at everything else. You don't need to promise yourself you'll finish it today. That's usually where the brain starts arguing. Just find the entrance. Open the file, put on the shoes, write the ugly first line, stay with the feeling a few seconds longer before escaping it. Because you may not be avoiding the thing you want, you may be avoiding the feeling required to enter it. And those are not the same thing. The strange part? The life you want may be sitting on the other side of a doorway you've mistaken for a wall. If you like figuring out the weird, little ways our brains quietly run our lives, subscribe. Alex still has a lot of drawers left to avoid.